Okay, today we're going to be canning tomatoes, and I decided to show you that we can do small batches of canning without the outside big huge canner. So the first thing you've got to do, get all your tools together and your ingredients, which I already have. But I'm going to give you a tip on your tomatoes. If you've got a pot of boiling water, I've got most of mine cut up, but I saved one. Put it in some boiling water and toss it. Just gently roll it around in that warm water. For about a minute. Anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. A lot of times when they're ready, the skin will crack. And you'll actually see the crack. Now that that's boiled just a minute, I'm going to put it over in some ice water. And you will notice, if it didn't crack on you, you can puncture the skin just a little bit. And that skin will just slide right off. A lot of you know how to peel tomatoes like this, but you can peel beets like this. You can peel peaches like this. There's various things that you can do like this. Okay? Now what you're going to do is take your knife and cut the center part out. At this time, I will tell you that they do make a little spoon-like thing that you can use to get that center out. Okay, now we're going to take our tomato and cut it in half crossways to where you expose the seeds. Most of your recipes tell you to use your finger and dig that out, but I have a little Dimetapp spoon that I've used for years, and I dig my seeds and juice out there. And this way it goes really quick. If you'll notice, I've already got most of the tomatoes that I have already done. Okay? And then you're going to take the second half. At this time, you need to decide whether you want a half of a tomato, quarter tomatoes. People and I use tomatoes a lot in spinach and chili and stews and what have you. After you get the seeds out, squeeze that last little bit of juice in there. Okay? So what we do is we usually dice our tomatoes. And it depends on, I don't know, we'll just dice them like this if we have a small amount. If we have a bunch of tomatoes we get out our onion chopper and we put our halves of tomatoes through that, and it makes for a nice little diced tomato. There. Now for the next step. I want to interject this little tip to you. If you've got a garbage disposal, don't put the skins down that disposal. A couple of times I always did it, and I found out that the skin gets wrapped around the blades and will clog up your disposal. So when I'm done, I always just fish out the skins. Just try to get those skins out of that water before you carburate it in the disposal. Okay, we've got all of our ingredients ready. We have us a pot on the stove boiling. But the first thing we're going to do is put our tomatoes in the jar. You want to pack them loosely, not tight. And then you're going to put a tablespoon of lemon juice. Now, if you are having to watch your salt in your diet, you can omit the salt. But remember, this is canning salt. Table salt will discolor your vegetables. But a half a teaspoon in a pint. And then, a few years ago, my girlfriend suggested that I put a bay leaf in my tomatoes, and that it improved my taste. And then you're going to fill the jar up with boiling water. Now your jar was hot and your water's boiling, so you need to quickly put your hot lid on. Take your jar lifter. I want to show you about my pot. We have been using the big canner. We normally use the big canner. Today, I'm going to show you how to do 3 or 4 jars. So I have a small pot, and in the bottom, I have a spacer or rack, whatever you want to call it. You have to have that in your pot. But if your pot is big enough that you can put your tomatoes in there and still be able to cover it about 1 inch with water, you can use your small pot and do 3 or 4 jars at a time. If you've got a bunch of tomatoes, use your big canner. Now we'll finish getting these ready. Okay, our jars have been processed. You need to put your jars to cool either on a wooden board or on a table with several layers of cloth to where it doesn't damage. Don't put it on a good table. It will ruin the finish. But you cannot put it on metal because it makes too drastic of a temperature change and the jars will break. We now have 3 jars. And we didn't waste any tomatoes out of our garden. Okay, you don't need to worry about the recipe, but here in Florida, we processed ours for 40 minutes. The one thing that you have to watch is your altitude. If you want to find the recipe or any other hints on canning anything that we have done in the past, it will be on our blog, so look it up.